friends, and welcome to another Building a Nation with Treaty United recap. This one encompasses, of course, Season 3 of The Save, our second in the top flight. Now, of course, we're actually streaming this live right now, and it's the transfer window, so you can come across and have your say, and, just see how we're going to sign for the summer. Now, obviously, not summer, winter, but obviously you're not going to spoil what's happened in this season, so if you want to find out what we're actually signing for, then hey, hop on over and I'll see you there in a sec. But if not, the VODs are available, of course, on the second channel, link in the description. Do drop a like on this video if you like these, and to tell me to keep doing them. And as always, if there's anything extra that you want to see, drop those in the comments too, and I'll try to include them. They sort of vary from time to time. There's going to be a few less clips in this one just because there was a few less clips, so I've had to sort of move things around, but I hope you understand. Let's get cracking. Now, if you remember in the last recap video, I talked about how we were having a youth intake at that exact moment. We got one player worth keeping, and even he is barely worth keeping. This is he. His name is actually Nicky Mayer, not Mayerzapin, but less about that the better. Yeah, he was the only prospect that was even worth keeping in that youth intake, and if you look at the quality of him, you'll understand why the rest of them were very, very poor, sadly. But we have had another youth intake since then, during which we did get Wayne Barnes, who actually, there looks to be, potentially, somewhere in here, a player. Haven't quite decided what yet, but there's definitely something in there that we can make use of. So that's Wayne Barnes. He was the sort of prime prospect from our last youth intake. And of course, we've also had Nathan Daly from a couple of seasons ago, certainly developing quite nicely. And I think it's only a matter of time before he does start to find himself into some first team football. Still haven't quite decided what we want to do with him yet, but there's very much a player in here. And at the very least, he's going to be worth a lot of money one day. In fact, he's already wanted by some clubs. I assume it's probably for loans. He's actually wanted by both Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers for transfers. So that's interesting. Of course, we still have Evan Roy Kent Dunn knocking about, hasn't played for us much this season at all, with you'll understand why in a sec. And the same kind of has applied for Saitama, the young Irish goalkeeper who featured a lot in the early stages of this save, but has really barely featured this season. Played a couple of games in the FAI Cup, but that's really about it for him this year. Onto the transfers that we've made over the course of this season. Well, certainly the ones we made in that first window anyway. First of whom was Tay Ashby Hammond, a goalkeeper released by Fulham over that sort of period, with 6 months without a club. We desperately needed a goalkeeper. Tyg Ryan, good attribute-wise, just couldn't seem to perform well in games. I don't know why, it might be our tactical setup or whatever. We were relying too much on Saitama, and it wasn't happening. We needed someone to really sit in that role and do a good job. And I think Tashby Hammond has done a reasonable one for us this season. So happy with him to come in on a free, £600 a week. You know, well, I say reasonably long contract. He's got a contract with us, which is more than some could be said for some others. I think he's a decent keeper with some room to improve in the future, maybe. And on that, we also brought in Tyreek Johnson on a free transfer again. This time, he was released by Woking, but we were able to pick him up. A former Southampton player. Actually had a really solid season for us, particularly in the early stages. 4 goals and 5 assists over 22 appearances this year. Has had several injuries that have really kept him out of the team for some fairly long periods, and I think that's part of the reason, because we did play very, very well when he was in the team, and he scored some important goals for us this year too. So to get him for £450 a week, really happy with that. Great player. And the last of the signings we made right before January essentially had happened is Ali Regba. He was released by Waterford, and I cannot believe this guy. He has been one of my favourite signings of this save so far. Did not expect him to play as well as he has, honestly. For a player that doesn't like big matches, he sure does like big matches. Attribute-wise, he's honestly nothing special, and you can see that he's actually dropped a little bit here, but that might just be, I actually don't know why that is. But I mean, look at his attribute stats for this season. In 38 appearances, 14 goals and 8 assists, and he's never played through the middle in that period. He's played on both sides for us, has been an absolute assist machine, and just an absolute god. And I have something to show you on him, because he's done something so audacious I've never seen it before in my life. We also brought Ibrahim Assi in on loan from Stoke, but he had an injury almost the moment that he joined us, and meant that he didn't really play that much. Kamfori Kaba, though, did manage to return to us and scored a few goals for us this season. 5 goals for us this year. Really happy to have him here. Lassina Keita also rejoined us for the season. He will definitely not be returning next year, as he's had one of the worst seasons I've ever seen. Benjamin Bezic also joined us for another season. Didn't get a huge amount of games for us this year, because we obviously had Ali Regba, but he was useful when he was suspended or injured. Now, for probably one of my signings of the season up there with Regba, Sean Hoare, 29-year-old Irishman on £600 a week. He has been stellar this season. Now, unfortunately, he missed the sort of the last 9 games of the year due to a hip injury. Yes, I know, that one. The jet ski injury. The inevitable. He's player of the year in this league. An average of a 7.68 from centre-back. He was a rock. There is nothing that this man could not do in this team. He was ridiculous. Probably should have scored more goals than he did, honestly, but he was fantastic this year. Won everything in the air, no matter who he was up against. Defensively brilliant, could pick himself a pass, had some goals at the other end from set pieces as well. He's going to be so important next season as well, once he's back from his injury. We also picked up Norwegian Alexander Glersen, who was released by Bodø. Hasn't played too many games this season, mostly off the bench for us, but again, just depth option, a youngster to bring through, wasn't on huge money. We also signed Aidan Quinn. He didn't actually join us until the summer because he was released, mainly as we wanted a backup centre-back, but he could also play striker. He could also play striker, and he has. Probably the biggest signing of the season in terms of the magnitude is Kyle Dempsey. Now, weird one about him. We had him on a trial after he was released by Gillingham. I asked his agent if he'd be interested in signing for us because he'd already said we didn't have the financial muscle, and I shit you not, his agent said he wanted between 11 and 13,000 pounds a week. Repeat that, £13,000 a week. So I just kept trialing him, and eventually no club was interested in him. And then amazingly, he took a £500 a week contract just out of nowhere. So yeah, Kyle Dempsey's joined us. 5 goals and 6 assists this season. Really, really happy with Kyle Dempsey. Him and Booty as the midfield pairing have been absolutely phenomenal this season. And as you can see, his rating really does reflect it. He's been fantastic. Still has another year left on his contract, obviously. Now, whether he'll come back for another 13 grand a week, I don't know. But the point is, he's here and he is absolutely stellar, so would highly recommend if you can get him. I mean, look at the list of pros compared to cons. He's just not the smartest, which, to be honest, does track perfectly with the £13,000 a week thing. We were able to get a second senior affiliate club this season, and that was Bologna, because I didn't want to just plus more money equals more goodness, and we needed the money because our financial situation was not good. We were at £700,000 in debt, and it was only getting worse. But during that summer period, we were able to bring in Federico Bellisi to give us a bit more backup in that midfield. Didn't start that many games, but I feel he's the sort of player I wouldn't mind getting back on loan for another season because he did a decent-ish job in there playing as a backup or a substitute to either Booty or Dempsey because he can do a bit of tackling, but he's also got solid passing and vision as well. Can occupy both of our midfield roles. Was really happy with him, so we'll take that. Can't jump to save his life, though. We also brought in Riccardo Stivanello on loan from Bologna as well, a big centre-back. Didn't get many games for us, but he did score a goal for us. He played a lot more after Sean Hall got that injury. We also brought in Mateus Rocky. Didn't have the best time for it, honestly. He's right-footed on the left-hand side, so he mostly was occupying that role, but sort of couldn't really get used to it, except for one goal that he scored, which I will show you in a bit, which was an absolute belter. The last loan signing of the season was Santo Demetrio Benedetto, of course, on loan from Bologna as well. Gave us really nice backup to Matt Blake this year, and did a great job at filling in that role when we needed him to. So I can't really hide it, given the way that this is set up, but you can see we flew out of the traps in the league with a 1-1 draw there. Obviously, not the best start of the season for us, but then 2-0 against Waterford, we were happy with that. But then when we beat Derry City 5-1, I thought, okay, there could be something to this. And then going and winning away at St Pat's Athletic, a bit of a bogey club for us, 4-0 with 2 more from Ali Regba, Blake and Nunn getting on the score sheet too. I was ecstatic, and the wins just kept coming. 2-0 against Sligo, 3-0 against Dundalk. Nunn was superb form. Only a sort of narrow victory against Galway with Tariq Mohammed, of course, who we had on trial a couple of seasons ago being sent off. Won't be the first time I say that this season. And then obviously a 2-1 victory against Shelbourne, 2-1 against Bohemian, and then a 1-1 against Shamrock Rovers, literally bookending one of, I think, 8 straight victories with 1-1 draws against Shamrock Rovers, and we flew to the top of the league early on. Then sadly lost 2-0 at Waterford with Dylan Grimes. Disappointment again, but we got back to winning ways with Derry in there as well. But then you saw the run start to sort of fall off a little bit. 1-1 draw away against Dundalk, with them having a red card in the 8th minute too. And then, yeah, losing at home against St Pat's did not help our cause by any means, and we were just starting to drop a few points at this stage. But then things started to pick up again. Sligo Rovers with a 2-0 victory, a classic 4-1 against Galway, then beating Shelbourne 3-0, Bohemian 2-1. We really started to power back towards the top of the league again at this point. But then an absolute hammering against Shamrock Rovers, easily one of our worst performances of the year, really did screw us a little bit. But then we bounced back with a 5-3 against Waterford with Dylan Grimes scoring a hat-trick. Most of the team for them had like 6.1s, and he had like a 9.2. It was the only player that did anything in the entire game. Then our routine defeat against St Pat's, we just cannot seem to beat them other than that random 4-0. Then a victory against Dundalk, and things just kept going. A 4-0 against Galway, and we kept pushing ourselves. Sadly, they did lose 3-2 away at Sligo Rovers. Much like last year, it was quite a poor one from us, but we probably could have done better in that one. Nunn with another brace, he had a great year. Then a 3-0 against Shelbourne, a 2-1 against Bohemian, to really keep things pumping along. A 5-0 trashing in the cup as well really did us a great job. Sadly, again, the routine loss to St. Pat's with a defeat caused by Stephen Christopher, our former player, not what you want to see. But just backing up a little bit, I need to show you Mateusz Rocky's goal against Dundalk, because this truly was something out of the top drawer. Rocky gets the ball, cuts back inside, and bends it into the top corner for 1-0 to us in this game. This was a big moment for us, and his first goal for the club just out of nowhere. What a screamer. But then off the back of the defeat against St. Pat's, things were starting to get a bit squeaky bum at this point, as we then drew away at Waterford with a 92nd minute penalty, dropping us, I believe, off the top of the league at that point. But then we bounced back with a 1-0 victory against Sligo Rovers with Ali Regba scoring the goal. I promise you something special. This is it. This truly is one of the most disgusting finishes I think I've ever seen. Watch what Regba does off of the second ball. So his initial header is saved, the ball bounces down, and he Ronaldo chipped the ball over the goalkeeper, and that was the winning goal. The fact that he chopped it between his legs in order to chip it up over the goalkeeper to score the winning goal. I've never seen a player do that before, but what a finish. The audacity on the man to pull that off, and that was a huge victory for us, as we then kept going with a 2-0 victory against Derry City, keeping that gap. But then most importantly, Dundalk at this point were playing in Europe, so they had a load of games in hand. We needed to make sure that we won. We went away to them, got a 0-0 draw by basically parking the bus for the full 90 minutes, and that almost did the trick for us, but when we got the 0-0, but then were sadly knocked out of the cup by St. Pat's, because of course, it's St. Pat's. Luckily though, we then had an easier game away at Galway United. Galway United. Yeah, it was Galway United, what we're talking about. You can see Tariq Mohammed sent off again for the second time against us this season, but a 3-0 victory was, 3-1 victory was enough to see us through. Then a routine victory against Shelbourne by 4-1, and we were then able to finish off with an away victory away at Bohemians to, as you can probably guess, win us the title at the first, well, not the first time of asking, the second time of asking. Not even close to my plans for this season. And then we had, of course, the Irish Champions Cup final against Linfield, which we won 5-4. I don't know how, but I think they scored every shot on target in the second leg. Mad game. Particularly as Dundalk had been knocked out of Europe by Linfield this same season. So this was how the league finished. We actually won the league by 10 points in the end, but believe me, it was a lot closer at times. At one point, I think we were we were like 9 points clear, but Dundalk had 3 matches in hand on us. So it was a bit of a squeaky one for us, but that 0-0 draw really did start to sink them, and they actually started to lose some games after that, and it really did allow us to just take control. But the board's expectations this season was mid-table, and I honestly at the start of it was saying no, that's too much for us, because they wanted us to be best of the rest the season we're about to do, and I just didn't think that progression was possible for us yet. And yet out of nowhere we just came flying out and won the league in our second season in the top flight. So we get Champions League football for next season, and that's the squad that we're having to build for. A 10-point win. I mean, only 6 defeats in 36 is pretty damn solid. The difference with us and Dundalk was just simply they drew too many games. We just kept winning. Asante got 20 league goals. Again, great performance from him. That's 38 in the top flight in 2 seasons. George Nunn was brilliant for the first half of the year, and then really dreadful for the second half of the year. I think he went like 12 matches without a goal for some reason at one point, and ended up losing the top scorer spot in the end, but still, 39 goals between the two of them. Sean Hoare was the best player in the league by a comfortable margin. And didn't even play in the last like 9 matches of the year, so just what a god. We're still in massive debt. The board did provide a cash injection, which I believe you'll notice was here. And in addition to that, obviously, we've had our prize money just come in, so hence why it says 500. You see what I mean? Now, budget-wise, we do at least have a little bit of budget, but it ain't a lot. We've got 12k in wage budget, and we're currently committed to spending 9k. So there's not a huge amount of wiggle room for us to build aside for the Champions League next year. Now, that might change depending on how much money we can bring in for our European campaign. I don't expect us to be qualifying for the Champions League or anything like that. That would be nuts. But on the plus side, I think it's an opportunity for us to potentially earn ourselves some decent cash, get ourselves out of debt with just a couple of good results somewhere in there if we get the right draws, and hopefully allow us to build for the future and just steady the ship financially, because I think we're going to struggle to win the league again this year, given all the extra European fixtures we've got on our plate. But as long as we're capable of qualifying for Europe again, that's fine. My target is just top 4 for this next season. I know that sounds strange, but it's how it happened with Tromsø. When we won the league with Tromsø, the next season we came 4th because we just weren't ready for it. Now, I think we're a bit more ready this year, given that it's not the first season and we've won the league, but I still think it's going to be an incredibly difficult ask for us. But our plan in terms of transfers this summer is, again, just to strengthen in key positions, tie down players where we need to, bring in some loans from Strasbourg and Bologna, but again, not over the top. We didn't really have that many of them. We had still quite a few, but compared to last year, it was nothing. Most of the players that played regularly for us this year were our players on permanent deals. The rest of them were mostly just used as squad filler players to cover positions should we need to, and I think I'll continue to do exactly that. One of the other key things, and the reason you're all here probably, is coefficients. So coefficients this season. You'll notice Republic of Ireland, 2.25. Really good year for us. Superb year, in fact, for us, comparatively speaking. Not as good as the first season, but better than last year, and more importantly, miles better than the year we're losing. So we're making ground up this season. You see, if I adjust things now, unfortunately, Northern Ireland, by knocking us out, got themselves a team in the Europa Conference League. Disappointment. There is Dundalk were our final bastion. We had some good results in there, but sadly, it didn't quite go to plan as a team. Yeah, that should not be a game that they lose, sadly. And hopefully, once we can get in there and start having an impact ourselves, we can start getting a bit more coefficient going and start to move us up the league. And in case you were wondering about things like the XG, we overperformed, of course, but then I think towards the top of the league you kind of have to, just as Dundalk have done in previous years. You can see that they probably didn't even deserve to be second in the league as it goes. Shamrock Rovers are definitely one of the better sides and arguably have been very unlucky in the last couple of seasons. And from a squad standpoint, you can see here that Enoch Asante actually had an extremely large amount. Now, he did score a fair few penalties. I'm trying to remember exactly how many. Yeah, you can see there. He scored 8 of 9 penalties this year, so that's definitely helped pad his stats a bit. Stats a bit, but still, what a season for a man with 8 finishing and 8 composure. He's got 38 goals for us in 69 games. But George Nunn was certainly on the ball, just had a really piss-poor second half of the season for whatever reason. Regba, again, with 14 is sensational from him. Hoare could have had a few more goals in there too. Tyreek Johnson was on the ball. Gribben was on loan, but still played fairly well for them there. Dempsey as well, scored a decent number of goals for a man who didn't really get many chances. Booty could have done a bit better this year, and you can see that Keita, obviously, that's not all of his minutes because of this stupid loan thing where you have to send them back midway through the season only to bring them back again. All in all, though, a very, very strong season for us, and hopefully we can... there's a real bedrock of quality talent. Some youngsters, but a lot of the best players at the club are our players. Regba, Hoare, Brennan, Booty, Dempsey, Tashby Hammond, Nunn, Asante, Blake. A lot of our first team are our players, and that makes me very, very happy. And tactically, nothing has really changed. We've been playing the exact same system this season as last year, and it's incredible how just improving personnel, as I said I was going to, has made such an incredible impact this year to go from a sort of team that were not struggling, but very lower half mid-table, conceding a lot of goals and not doing well. Playing the exact same style of play has immediately catapulted us to winning the league by 10 points the following season, just with some personnel upgrades. And that's really what we're going to focus on for next season too. If this all sounds good to you, hop over to live stream right now. We're streaming this right now, doing some winter transfers, probably still waiting for our goddamn scouting budget, still going after Fernando Ovalar and seeing if he'll finally join the club, and bringing in some new lads, hopefully to get this season and team ready for the brand new season. So if you've enjoyed this video, do smash the like button, that'd be tremendous. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, that'd be awesome too. I do recaps, I do a main series as well now, which you should be seeing, Nordic Nomads. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed that so far, and yeah, I'll see you over on a stream soon. Thank you so much for watching. Hold your gun, capybara, bye bye.